Welcome to the Victorian Small Business Network, your go-to podcast for small business owners looking to connect, share and grow. Here we bring together the heart and hustle of entrepreneurship, sharing real stories, insights and tips from fellow business owners. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale, we're here to build a supportive community that helps take your business to the next level. Let's dive into inspiring conversations, expert advice, and everything you need to succeed in today's world of small business. In today's podcast, we're going to cover getting those invoices paid, tips on improving profit rapidly, employment opportunities, and getting those contracts reviewed and signed. We have the wonderful Jan Davies from Aqueous Talent. Jan is an advocate for people with disabilities by opening doors for paid employment. Philip East, Profit Acceleration Strategist, Sarah Burke, Contracts Lawyer for Small and Medium Businesses, and Spiro Pikulis, Managing Director of SalesCred.
I think you're the only person outside my mum that calls me Philip.
Sorry, Phil. Sorry, mate. I don't know why I've got Philip on.
That's all right. I was going to save that for a bit later on, but I thought I'd just say
all right, let me just... We have the...
You can leave it in there.
I can leave it in there? Oh, great. What an honour. That's great. Thank you. All right. So, Sarah, you are a specialist in writing and reviewing contracts. What is the most shocking mistake you've seen happen because businesses skipped having a written contract?
I wouldn't really say it's shocking. It's very common, and I don't want to take away what Spiro will probably touch on, but it is at the moment definitely people not getting paid on time, and chasing large debts that have gotten out of control because they didn't have terms in their contract about the time they were going to get paid, how they were going to get paid, and they don't have any way of following those payments up. So when they come to me, there's less I can do to help with that. We had a written contract, we'd have rights in there, we can follow those rights up.
Right. And so can you give us the importance of written contracts for business?
The most important part is definitely reducing and minimising the risk of disputes. Okay, if you have a contract, it's going to be a roadmap of requirements that everyone is clear on upfront. It can be pulled out at any time when there's disagreements, misunderstandings, and it can almost stop that dispute before it spirals. It also does help, as I said, with payment and also with performance issues. So that contract is evidence, written evidence of what was agreed initially, so it's legally enforceable. Whereas if you have a verbal agreement, text messages, emails, that's a little bit harder to come to the conclusion about what everyone agreed. And it's quite funny that when a dispute arises, how people's memories have completely changed from what was said months earlier. So having that written evidence is obviously such a strong position to be in.
Sarah, I've seen some ads for downloadable contracts and templates. What are the risks of using those?
Yeah, I love this one because it is actually very common, and lately, especially, I have been being asked, I'll just get one off the internet, I'll just copy someone else's, I'll just put it on there. And unfortunately, the problem with that is it's often completely unsuitable for the business, the unique service offering of products. It may be standard cookie cutter type agreement. It's not going to necessarily protect what you want it to protect, and it's not built for your business. The other side of it is a lot of the time you've got to have some sort of understanding of contracts. So if you are downloading a template, how will you know what it actually says, and how will you complete that template? Because there will be parts where you have to choose perhaps possibly what condition goes in or what goes into the variables at the back of this template contract. And if you don't even understand where that all fits together, a contract's like a big jigsaw puzzle and it all fits together. You take something out, you could be completely changing the meaning of a condition. So you need to have a bit of an understanding before you use it. And I do find that as a small or medium business owner, perhaps this may be the first time you've seen a contract or used a contract, so you really don't know what it means. The other side is it can be out of date. You may have particular legal requirements that contract doesn't cover. And even the really, really good ones that you may pay for example, they still are not going to fit your business. So the majority of the time it is good to get them customized. If you have a template, you could take that to a lawyer as a starting point to customize, and that's okay. You can do that, but it is important, especially with, I think, businesses that are using it for their services and products, to get that looked over by a lawyer and customized so that you make sure all your requirements are in there that fit your business and the type of products and services you have.
So, quick question. Do you find that you get a lot of businesses come in with downloaded contracts, but they're actually international? The law you don't have the right legal requirements because it's not Australia-based?
It can be, and I think American ones are important. That there is more Australian options now, I think. I'll tell you a story. I had a client, or I've got a couple of stories, but I won't go to all of them. But this one comes to mind when we're talking about template contracts. So I had a client selling a business, a small business. So it was a pretty simple asset sale. It didn't need to be complicated. She had a buyer. They went online and the purchaser decided to download a contract and said, hey, just use this. And thank goodness she came to me, because she would have just signed that because she just wanted to get the deal done. Well, of course, it was drafted completely in the favour of the purchaser. It had numerous seller warranties that were going to last years and years and years after the sale that just weren't even relevant. And it also had quite a wide-reaching non-compete clause, which would have actually stopped my client from making an income close to where they lived, which wasn't really the purpose of a non-compete clause. The non-compete is don't set up shop next door and don't steal the employees. It's not don't make a livelihood. So they're just a few small things. We basically did go through and completely mark it up. It was almost a rewrite, and that was more suitable for that type of small sale. And it also didn't have any mention of what something was called, which is the Section 52, which is a legal requirement for a small business. So again, thank goodness she came to me and we sorted it out before she signed it, because otherwise she would still have requirements today. And this sale was over 12 months ago. She would still have warranties and promises that she'd made still going on today if we hadn't changed those.
Yeah, so you've just given us one great example of why it might be so important to have a lawyer review contracts and that before you sign. Are there any others that you might be able to share with us?
Yeah, especially, so I have clients think they're given a contract, it's take it or leave it, you can't negotiate it. Well, what's the point of reading? I'm just going to sign it, whatever. The problem with that is that down the line, something will happen and you won't actually know what your requirements are in that contract. So it is important, even if that is the situation, and I'll tell you, a lot of the time people will say that, but it is possible to negotiate even the unnegotiable contract, if I could say that right.
I think you nailed it.
But yeah, so where was I on that? Yeah, so the importance of getting a lawyer just even to look over it is you're going to go in with your eyes wide open. The lawyer is going to explain what is in that contract. They're going to take that legal language and they're going to put it into language you can understand. Well, I know that's certainly what I always strive to do. So you should have an understanding of the risks to your business before you sign it. And that knowledge is powerful because that gives you a moment to think, is this worth it? Can I manage these risks? Can I put processes in place? Can I follow these processes? Are they even in line with my delivery model? Or do I need to walk away and find another supplier, another deal?
Do you think people tend to do that because of the way technology is today? So you sign up to an app, you've just got to T's and C's, you've got to press yes, accept. They're that long. A lot of people don't read what's on their phone, like your
I think
Apple.
I think so. I think in those sort of agreements too, you're probably thinking more of individuals purchasing things. And yes, you do have very little power to change it, but it's still important to understand what is in those conditions before you tick. I think in a business sense, it's even more so important because, as I said, you could have a completely different process, for example. Like, here's an example. Someone, I know a client, they had to follow a particular process for how they get paid, and that involved filling in an app with certain number of hours. Now, they didn't even know that was the process. So when it came to time to get paid, that, you know what, the other person on the other side said, well, you didn't fill in the app, we're not paying you. Okay, so this is an important process to know up front so you can minimise this risk. Whether that clause is unenforceable or whatever, that's a question for another day. But just being able to follow a simple process because you know about it is why it is important to review and read that contract.
Absolutely. So, Phil, you help small business owners with their cash flow. So how do you actually do that?
Yeah, thanks, Sparrow. Yeah, I do. And it's a multifaceted thing, but probably the two biggest is making sure they're profitable and good marketing. So there is that other part of it is making sure you get paid, and you know all about that, and let us know a bit later on. But I think a lot of the times people are scared to increase prices. We've seen over the last bit with the increase in cost of living and that sort of thing, there's been more and more businesses that are being prepared to actually increase their prices. The question I usually have for them is, did you increase them enough? So knowing what's actually going into your pricing and whether your pricing is profitable, and also just having a look at your expenses. So the two quickest and easiest ways is to increase your prices and to cut costs. The superpower is combining them both and getting the power of compounding and strategy stacking. So Albert Einstein, I think he called it the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. You're either paying it or you're receiving it. So the same way as so there are two strategies. If you add on a few more, all of a sudden you might have 6 or 7 strategies making 2, 3, 4, 5% difference, and you put them together, a compound on each other, all of a sudden you're looking at maybe 400%. So if I could give you a 1 cent piece at the start of the month, or $1 million, and I'd say I'd double it for every day for 30 days, or give you $1 million.
I'll take the 1 cent piece. I know this one.
Yeah, so take at the end of the 30 days, you double your 1 cent piece, you end up with about close to 5.4 million. It might take you 28 days to get to the $1 million offered you in the first place, but then that's the power of compounding. So small hinges swing big doors, and that's the premise of a lot of it.
So looking at a retail, for example, you're working with some retail. If they've got some products that are moving really fast out the door and they've got some that are just sitting there, would you get them to maybe have to do a price increase? Would you get them to increase the one that's moving quicker, just a small amount, where the one that doesn't move a bit higher percentage? Does that make sense? Or would you reverse that?
I'd have to actually look at it in the whole context of what the whole business is doing. Okay. So as far as it goes, part of raising prices, and one way to do it in that instance may be to bundle the two. So you can might be able to raise the price by raising value. So people actually shop value, not price. So if people are balking at your price, it may be that you're just not offering the value that they want. So that's why your Macca's meal works, your value meal. The sum of the three parts is not quite, but most of the time, if people are buying them individually, they might not buy all three. So they're making more money, increasing their prices through bundling. So car washing is another great example as well.
That is so interesting. Increasing prices being a mistake. I'm not sure many people would be happy about lawyers increasing prices. Could give it a go. What are some of the other biggest mistakes that businesses are making?
So there's probably 3, and it doesn't matter whether you're starting a business or whether you're into a business, you've been going. Probably the 3 biggest mistakes are intertwined, but the number one is they fail to get professional advice. So from my point of view, they need to come and see me before they start or whilst they're going. But even talking to a lawyer, talking to their accountant, talking to their people about employment, talking to people about debt collection, all those sorts of things it's important. Like, I think when Tiger Woods was at his peak, I think he had 9 coaches. So get the team around you that's going to help you perform at your best. Number 2 would be people don't necessarily understand the fundamentals required to successfully market their business. And number 3 would be that they don't have any idea of how to use it to generate immediate cash flow. So I think part of the marketing is getting people to take action and getting people to think that you understand them. So to do that, we need to really enter the conversation that's happening inside their head when they're thinking about buying a product or service that you offer. So for most people, they've got a problem that they don't want, and you've got a solution that they want but they don't have. So nailing down what that conversation is. As an example, you might have a cosmetic surgeon and they might be doing mummy makeovers or something like that, you know. And instead of having a headline for their service, like, nurture the body you want to be or something like that, which you see a lot. If you change that to something along the lines of want the body you had before you had kids, all of a sudden that's a conversation that might be, and it's more likely to gain the attention of your prospects. So using those thought processes and then plugging them into what I call a conversion equation, which is interrupt, which is that headline that gets their attention, engage, which encapsulates the solution you have that they want, that gets them interested, usually has a little bit of education, okay? So tells you why they need your product or service, and then an offer. And you've got to have an offer. There's no point in, a lot of people put out a great ad and then they don't say, buy from me or do this next or go to my website or anything. They don't, there's nothing. So you need a good strong offer. You can go from your headline to your offer and leave out the other two, but you need to have that strong offer, and that's what compels people to get out there, KFC, shut up and take my money and get it on the go. And so you can move people to take their wallet out and give you their cash just by having a good message to market match, as they say in the classics.
Well, I guess that's the thing though, all content and everything that we're trying to do, if there's no call to action, it's out there. You're not directing them to do anything, right? So
yeah, I think when people go to buy something, the word journey is overused, but they're on a journey. So they start with an awareness and they finish with purchasing, maybe. At the end of it, that when they're ready to purchase, that's usually less than 1% of the market. It's never any more than 3%. So if you're marketing to people who are ready to buy now, you're missing out on 97% of the market. And all those people, before they get to there, they're having all these conversations in their head about why they need it, why they don't need it, why they shouldn't buy it, why they should buy it, what they should buy, who they should buy it from. And you need to be in that conversation as a business owner.
Phil, I'm sure most businesses would like to make more profit. What do you see as the best way to start?
A great place to start is an expense audit, because if you can save $1, that stays straight in your pocket. Okay, so do a bit of an expense audit on what you're doing, and then have a bit of a price review. See what your prices are doing and go like that. The ABS will tell you that I think it's 11.2% of the average profit of businesses in Australia is 11.2%, and that's all businesses, which is terrible. It astounds me, and that's part of why I do it. There's a lot of people doing a lot of great stuff in their business, and 10% is no reward for them. So if you can raise your prices by 5.5% and reduce your expenses by 5%, all of a sudden you've doubled your business. You've gone from making 10% to making 20%. You know, it doesn't take much. So if you then explore anywhere up to, well, there's 40 that I use, but anywhere up to another 12 of the fundamentals, all of a sudden you might be getting into the hundreds of percent change, and that's life changing. So I also use a piece of software that helps me monetize the strategy. So talked with the business owner and we monetize this, go through the strategies, and they let me know how much of a difference they'll think it'll make in their business. And I plugged it into the profit acceleration software, and it'll monetize it. It runs something like 497 million algorithmic sequences, which is hard enough to say, let alone think about. But what that does then, it will provide, and I'll go through and use that data that we've got from the profit acceleration software to create a report and a roadmap that will provide a step-by-step process of which strategy to start with that's going to give you the lowest cost to implement and biggest bang for your buck, I suppose, is the thing. So as I usually do that solos for about 1,500, but today for all the VSBN podcast listeners, there'll be a link to my calendar in the show notes, and you can go there and just put VSBN in the notes, and you can book in for a free strategy and step-by-step roadmap report. I just had to get an offer in there because I'm going to talk about offers. I need to make an offer. Otherwise, I'm not congruent. I had to make an offer.
You might be doing all your work for nothing, mate.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's okay.
Convert those leads.
If they use it and make an extra couple of percent, I'm very happy for that. And some of them, sometime down the track, they might want to do a bit extra work with me, but it's a very eye-opening process for people to go through, and it helps a lot of people. And a lot of the time, we start off trying to go through 12 strategies, and we might only do 3 or 4. And I think, probably about, I think it's around 93% last time I checked of the assessments that I did, people found we uncovered more than 100,000 for each of those 93%. So it is a very powerful process, and it's really one of those I can do that moments where it's small hinges, big doors, big results.
So if we were to provide a soundbite, book in the calendar and find $100,000. So
Yeah.
is that it?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Like it.
In less than, I don't know. I think the appointment goes for an hour and a quarter. So,
An hour and a quarter. An hour and a quarter of your life equals 100,000.
yeah, so don't worry about the time. They'll find out when they get there.
That's great.
So, Spiro, what's a credit management strategy and why is it important for businesses?
Well, that's a great question, Phil. Look, credit management strategies are important to all business, especially small to medium businesses right now. If you actually take a look at the Creditor Watch Business Risk Index, it actually shows business-to-business debt is at its worst level since March 2021, which is at the conclusion of JobSeeker. So debt is really prevalent in small business today. 3 things that are challenging small business right now. We touched on that as the cost of living. We know that's increasing. We know that interest rates are still quite high and they're not looking to drop till at least next year. And the third thing, which I think we discussed earlier today, is actually the ATO. The ATO are really focusing on small business and the outstanding debt that they've got, and they're really chasing after them. So those 3 things are actually affecting small business and how they can get paid. And it's a flow-on effect. So if you're being owed money and you're not getting that early enough, then you can't pass that fund on to someone else, and then that's a flow-on effect. So, and generally that affects small business owners. It generally doesn't affect the the bigger ones, they're fine. They've got enough cash in reserves. Small to medium business owners are reliant on having people pay their bills on a timely manner. If you actually take a look at the statistics, bills within the first 60 days of being followed up will be paid at 90%. So 90% of your bills are going to be paid within the first 60 days. If you don't follow them up and you leave it till 90 days, maybe 50% are going to be paid. If it's over 90 days, maybe 20% of those are going to be paid. So the idea of putting a strategy in place to get paid ideally before it's due, but once it falls overdue, to be in front of that customer is important. And that starts with having a credit application. I mean, that's extremely important. You have to have an application that covers you legally, but then once that's signed and you've got those terms there, then once the invoice is done, you want to make sure your invoice includes a due date and payment details, how they're going to pay you otherwise, right? Maybe before it's due 2 days, send an SMS. Just remind them to say, hey, it's due in a couple of days. That can be paid. The day after it's due and it hasn't been paid, then look at a strategy to say, hey, why don't I just send another message to say, hey, can this be paid? Follow up with a phone call afterwards. Call them 4 days later, ask the question. A lot of people are afraid to actually get on the phones, and that fear stops people from actually getting paid, building that relationship with the customer. So having a strategy in place and documented means that you have a better chance of having those funds paid in earlier. You're educating your client, and you're not allowing debts to go to that 90-day mark where it's virtually difficult to collect, and then you have to employ the services of Sarah again, not just for the contract at the early stage, but then to help collect at that stage, which is very difficult and expensive, right? And that's where the contracts come into play as well, because making sure you've got the right contracts, all of a sudden those fees can be covered by the person the customer that's owing that debt, rather than you having to fork it out of your own pocket. Initially, you have to pay for it up front, but it's liable at the back end when they pay. And so they're the important avenues of small business ensuring that they can get paid and having a strategy that's viable for them. And each business will work differently, of course. So if you've got products that you're selling off the shelf and you're offering terms like that, then you want to have your 14-day or your 30-day terms, and that's it. More contractors, they want to have shorter terms. So you're looking at sparkies, plumbers and all that. They don't want to have later terms. They're smaller. They need to keep going. So their terms need to be shorter, and they need to be on the dial with them as well.
100%, like there is so many small and medium business owners chasing money, struggling. As you said, it's a complete domino effect, and prevention is definitely key before it gets out of control to that 90-day mark. What would you say to business owners who have overdue accounts right now?
Right now, if they've got overdue accounts, I would actually split them up between, 14, 30, 60, 90. The 90-day ones, if you haven't made contact, get in contact with them immediately. Make sure that you make that phone call. Don't just send a letter or send an SMS or an email. Actually get on the phone. And that's where a lot of, unfortunately, businesses, they're afraid to. And it's not a problem in asking for money. As long as you do that respectfully, in a respectful manner, and you build that relationship, then you're going to understand if they're in financial hardship and how you can assist. You'll understand their positioning, because if you live 90 days plus, chances are, what happens if they change their phone number? They've moved addresses. All of a sudden, that cost is going to spiral out of control to try to collect that. So you want to get onto those 90 days immediately. The 60 days as well, you want to get onto those. And do the same sort of process. You want to make a phone call. You want to follow up with an SMS and email. You need to know where their situation is, because we're talking 60 days past the due date. So you don't want to be leaving it too long, because at the 60-day mark, if they still haven't paid, my recommendation would be to look at going to the assistance of a solicitor or an agency, depending on debt values and stuff as well. I mean, it's hard if you've got small dollar value debts and we're talking a couple of $100. You don't want to write that off, but is it worth using a solicitor for that? For the ones that are that high dollar value, absolutely. You may want to look at an agency that can assist with that lower dollar value stuff, and they'll charge a commission for that. But the scenario is you don't want to be able to get to that point. At the ones that are 14 to 30-day mark, be proactive. Make a phone call, resend the invoice, and put forward the potential of what may occur, the consequences of them not paying as well. Because you may be following up saying, can you pay this debt? Can you pay this debt? And that's fine. But if they don't know what the consequences are, there's no call to action to entice them to. But ideally, what you want to be able to do is build that relationship early on with that customer so you know you're going to get paid early. Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, we pay the people that we like better and the ones that are also in front of us. If you're following up on a regular basis, I'm going to pay you because I don't want to be hassled or all that. Now, the ACCC guidelines say you can do up to 3 contacts a week for debt collection to follow up. My recommendation is at the beginning, do a couple. You know, a follow-up on day 1, a phone call day 5, 5 days later, you know, resend the invoice. Do that process. Put a process in place, documented it. It's going to take 20 minutes, really, a day. But 20 minutes to make sure you're getting paid is a small price to pay. And we're all busy, everyone is, but if you're not getting paid, then you're working for free.
How about if you had a right to charge interest on the overdue payment, how about sending a new invoice with the interest charges? Would that help the payment?
It will, it can. And it's also a negotiating tool as well. Let's be honest here, if you've got it documented down, you can enforce that. But what happens in, I won't say a lot of cases, in some cases, people contact and say, well, hold on a sec, my bill was $1,500, it wasn't $1,750. And you're saying, well, that's the interest component. And you can use that as a negotiation tool to say, hey, if you pay that within the next 24 hours, I'll waive that fee for you.
Perfect.
You know, but if it's enforceable and they haven't paid, my recommendation would be, I think similar to yours, you add that on and you follow that through.
Part of that is essentially a marketing strategy around your debt collection. It's what you're saying to them, how you're positioning it, the process you're going to go through, and it's actually all about, I mean, you chuck a couple of lollies in with your invoice and see if it gets paid. So all those things that you were just talking about, it's actually a marketing process around your debt collection.
It is.
Marketing strategy around your debt collection process.
Absolutely. It's got to be. And you've got to have that in business. If you're just sending something out, you're not building relationships, well, then there's no loyalty.
Yep.
And we want to have that loyalty and we want that return business. So if you do, I guess, that debt collection side and the credit management solution is respectful, then there's a higher chance that you're going to maintain that customer and they're also going to respect you as well. If you're going to get on the phone, they're going to understand your situation. You'll understand them and you're building that bond for future work. So I find that really important.
Such fantastic advice and would mean a lot to people who are struggling with those kind of things. So what do you see as the most optimum structure to get paid and how do business owners kind of manage that?
I think it's probably going back to having that documented workflow. So it's not just a matter of selling and then saying, oh, I'll make a call, but actually diarise it. So you're going to do the work, you know the day you invoice, you know the day it's due. Diarise that follow-up, build that relationship right from that outset. And so I find that is the key to actually getting paid.
So it's being organised.
Absolutely. Yeah. Organisation is key 100%, because if you can diarise when it's due, when it's expected to be paid into your account, and you diarise that follow-up, those 2 days a week of that phone call or that SMS or that email with the invoice with additional consequences, that strategy will actually help with you, but it's going to give you more confidence as a business owner, not just to follow up that person, but all debts as well. You're going to make sure that the debts don't fall to that 60 to 90 day mark. You're going to get paid earlier. You're going to be more satisfied. You're going to have better relationships with your clients. And at the end of the day, the quicker you get paid, the less stress you are. Yeah. The more time you have for your current, for new business and those clients. If you have to spend a lot of time chasing up debt yourself, then you haven't been proactive enough. So be proactive. make sure you've got the right legal documentation at the beginning. Make sure you've got that strategy to engage before it's due, and once it's past due date, that follow-up. At the end of the day, you have to be in their, sounds awful, you have to be in their face in a respectful way. You have to give them that reminder that, yeah, you're important. It's not just, everyone's important here, but the ones that are in front of them are the ones getting paid first. If you take a look at council rates, or you take a look at those, they'll send their rates out, they'll leave it 6 months, and then they'll send a reminder. So they're not front of mind in a lot of people. Okay, well, that's just in the background. I'm not hearing from them. That's not important. Who are the ones that are important? The ones that are actually following up, the ones that are in the front of mind. When I've got the funds, I'll make sure I can pay that. But if I can't, and you make that phone call, you can then set up an arrangement, and a viable arrangement at that, where they can actually spread out the payments over a period of time, over the next fortnight, month. But you make sure you document that arrangement, you put that in writing, and you say the consequences of if they don't keep to that arrangement. And you put that there, you put that forward, and if they accept that, fantastic. If they don't, then you've got the right to pursue them using Sarah or an agency if it's a small dollar value. But you've made it clear, you've been respectful, and you've given them an opportunity to pay.
Hey, Jan,
Hi, Phil.
I've just got two short questions for you. One short one. Aqueous. Is that what?
Aqueous.
Aqueous.
Aqueous talent. That
Okay,
means
thanks.
equal talent.
Yeah, thanks for that. And so my second question is, what actually is aqueous talent?
So we have a really strong belief that everybody who's facing barriers and in their quest for employment have equal opportunity, as we all do, to strive for open, meaningful paid employment. We know that 1 in 6 Australians have a disability. We know that the unemployment rate for people with disability is nearly half of that of mainstream people, if you like. So, and we've developed a suite of products that support people facing barriers into employment, and we also support businesses in how to have that understanding of how they can break down those barriers of employing people with disability. So we work with our customers and take them through a program that gives them the tools and the best opportunity of being able to put them in that space of finding employment. A big part of that is what we call a self-discovery, so that, for example, we know that if you go for an interview, a question that is asked is, well, tell me about yourself. And that is a question that anyone will struggle with. So our first focus with our customers is to find out who you are, what are your strengths, what's your emotional wellness, what are your goals, what are your employment aspirations, and what would you like to do? So at the end of the program with our customers, they are able to then go into that interview situation and actually understand who they are and have a better opportunity of getting employment. So when we work with employers, we offer disability awareness, and we work side by side with the employer and with our customers, so that, if you like, it's organic disability awareness and has a far greater meaning. And I guess our point of difference is where we are too. We provide this, what we call an end-to-end service. So we work with our clients, we approach a business, and we're not asking a business to give our clients a job, we're asking to give a workplace immersion experience. And while they're having that, we have what we call an employment coach with them, and that employment coach is the conduit between business and our customer, so that everybody is getting an understanding of what it's like to work with someone with disability, and as I said, organically breaking down all those barriers.
Jeez, that sounds absolutely amazing, and it's so satisfying as well to be able to help so many people, right? I mean, that's amazing. So, what are probably, I guess, some of your greatest memories or biggest successes that you'd like to share?
Well, I've got loads, and being mindful of time, I want to talk about one young lady in particular who I've known for a long time. Her name is Amy. So Amy is autistic but high functioning. She's amazing, but she has been impacted by anxiety since she was a little girl, to the point of when she was in primary school, she could only last at school until playtime, and then her mum had to come and take her home because it was just so overwhelming. So we fast track through her journey once she got to the end of secondary school, and she didn't really know what she wanted to do, and she would always describe herself as a square peg in a round hole, that she didn't fit in. I've got no friends, I'm different, I'm weird, all that language that I guess society and community would put around her. So that was her struggle. So we were able to see her participate in workplace immersion programs, and she was beginning to believe in herself, see her confidence grow, and learn employment skills along the way as well. So we fast track now, and she's got an incredible job. She's got an important job with an organisation in Melbourne, and she is independent, pinching herself all the time to think, well, wow, I've actually come on this journey, and it's life-changing for her. And I guess, you know, when we talk about life-changing, obviously it's life-changing for the people that we work with, but what it does for families, because once a little one's identified with a disability, that the family carry that with them, all the while wondering what is going to happen once my son or daughter finishes secondary school, because they're very, very well supported through that experience. But that elephant of the room comes into play at that time. So parents are just overwhelmed with gratitude that these kind of things, these outcomes can be reached. And also what the changes that I've seen for businesses who have taken that step and out of their comfort zone to employ someone with disability.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool.
It is absolutely amazing, and listening to you speak about Amy as a mother and as a human, like, just absolutely makes me emotional. What you did for her is nothing short of remarkable, and thank you.
No, thank you.
So you talked earlier about like the businesses having sort of needing some education, perhaps some understanding and awareness. What do you find are some of the most common misconceptions that businesses have about hiring someone with a disability?
Great question. Thank you, Sarah. So I used to think that there was and I would describe it as a stigma around employing people with disability, but I really think it's a fear. And a lot of people don't know how to have a conversation with someone with a disability, think they might break them, hurt their feelings, etc., etc. So it's that education piece about helping people to understand, and that's where our points of difference come in as well, where we support businesses on how to have a conversation, how to demonstrate how instructions can be given. People with disability don't want to be treated any differently. They want to live the life that we live. So that's what that's all about. People with disability make incredible employees. They are very undervalued in that space. That if they get a job, they're really so grateful. Backed on what I've just been speaking about before. So grateful. Don't question what they're being asked to do. They're loyal, they're honest, and that comes into play with the support that we give them and the support that we give the business. So it's just through our disability awareness that we offer businesses, it breaks down all those barriers for employers as well. We're really big believers in stakeholder engagement, and so that is the relationship between a business, our customers, ourselves, and creating that circle of support for people with disability to have that opportunity that we're wanting for them.
I know, and we're really short on time, but what are the areas, like, are you across all business sectors, or is there businesses, like, is there areas that you can specifically help in better, or?
Great question. And a big piece that we do with our customers is we find out from them what their employment aspirations are, what they would like to do. So, for example, we've got a client who is really into IT. He has studied, and he's autistic, and attention to detail is second to none. Absolutely. He has studied a certificate 4 in IT, a couple of diplomas, but the piece that is missing is the experience. So he's applying for jobs, and he's being let down by saying we've got no experience. So that's the really hard one. So in terms of him, in answering your question, any organisation, any industry needs someone to work in their IT. So that's where we make that match. So when we're working with him, we know what his skills, strengths and abilities are. So then we might come to you and say, do you need an IT? Do you need an IT hand? Do you need an extra set of hands to get those jobs done? Data entry, moving on from there. Yeah.
Yes, getting that experience, and then once he's got that experience,
Yes.
it's a flow-on effect.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in to the VSBN podcast. We hope today's episode gave you the inspiration and insights to help your business succeed. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Connect with us by visiting vsbn.com.au. You'll see the profiles of today's members, and you'll be able to engage with them if you have further questions. Until next time, keep connecting.